This is half past paper, week 21, foundations here, and we're back to a calculator paper this week. So this is half a past paper. These are all the topics that we're going to do this week. Here we are, and this is for foundation, and those are all the codes as usual. Okay, question number 1. Write 31% as a fraction. So percent means out of 100. So 31% means 31 out of 100. So 31 out of 100. It doesn't simplify, but even if it did, it's only a 1 mark question, so it wouldn't matter if you did or didn't. Question number 3, write the following numbers in order of size, start with the smallest number. Now, when I'm getting students to order decimals, I will often get them to write them on top of each other and line up those decimal points. Just makes it easier to see what's in what column. So there we go. Make sure they're all the same length. If they're not the same length, you can add zeros in. Now, first we're going to look at the ones column. Some of them are zeros and some of them are ones. So the smallest numbers are going to be the ones that have the zeros in that column. Then we're going to go over to the next column. And of those two, you've got a 1 and you've got a 2. So this one is going to be our smallest, 0.12, followed by 0.21. Then we're going to look at the other two numbers. They've both got ones in the ones column, and then if you go over again, it's a 0 or a 2. So this one here at the top is going to be smaller, 1.02, and then 1.20 or 1.2. That's your final answer for that one, in order, starting with the smallest number. Question number 5. The diagram shows a rectangle. On the centimetre grid below, draw an accurate scale drawing of this rectangle. Use a scale of 1 centimetre to represent 5 metres. Okay, so if 1 centimetre is 5 metres, to get from the drawing to real life, it's going to be 5 times bigger. And then to get from real life to the drawing, it's going to be 5 times smaller. And then obviously we can change the units. So if it's 35 metres here, I need to divide that by 5, and that tells me that it's going to be 7 centimetres when I draw it on my scale drawing. Same thing here, if it's 20 metres, I'm going to divide that by 5, and that would be 4 centimetres on my scale drawing. So I'm now just going to get a rectangle, hopefully that's a rectangle, and then, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. There we go. So just nice, and in light blue there you can see that that is 7 centimetres wide and 4 centimetres tall, and that is in the correct scale. Question number 7. A baker has 3 bags of flour, A, B and C. Bag A and bag B contain the same amount of flour, and bag C contains 940 grams of flour. In the 3 bags there is a total of 2,500 grams of flour. How much is in bag A? So we've got bag A, we've got bag B, and we've got bag C, and in bag C we know that there is 940. Now altogether it needs to add up to 2,500. So I'm going to start by doing 2,500, take away 940 to find out how much is left. This is a calculator paper, so feel free to do that in your calculator. That gives you an answer of 1,560, and I'm then going to share that equally between these 2 bags because it says that they have the same amount of flour. So 1,560 divided by 2, and again I'm just using my calculator, it is 780. So there's 780 grams in A and 780 grams in B. They only asked us for A, so there we go. 780 would be your answer. Question number 9. Alec needs to work out the value of 2 add 3 times 4. He writes 2 add 3 is 5, and then 5 times 4 is 20. So 2 add 3 times 4 is 20. Alec is wrong, explain why. So he needs to have done the 3 times 4 first. So with BIDMAS, we know we do brackets first, then indices, then divide, multiply, then add, subtract. So because there is a multiplication, we need to do that part first. So you can say he didn't use BIDMAS, you can say he should have multiplied first. I'm going to go with that. He should have multiplied first. And you don't need to say what the actual answer is, but you might want to. He should have multiplied first, then added 2. So that would be 12 add 2. So the answer should have been 14. There we go. Question number 11. Reflect shape A in the mirror line. So we know that with a reflection, however far away from the mirror line it is on one side, you need to go the same distance on the other side. So this point here is 2 squares from the mirror line. So we need to also go 2 squares, and that first point is going to go there. So there we go, that's our first point there. This point here is 3 squares away, so we're going to go 3 squares away on this side, and that point is going to go there. This point is 4 squares away, so it's going to go there. We're then just going to join it up with a nice straight line using a ruler like that, and it should be there. You don't need to label it, anything, it hasn't asked you to label it, so there we go. That's my answer for 2 marks. Question number 13, RST is a straight line. Work out the value of x. So we know that angles on a straight line, I'm going to write it in because it says to, give a reason for your answer. Angles on a straight line add up to 180. So I'm going to add up what we've got so far, 75 add 84. That's 159, and then do 180, take away 159. If there's more on the floor, borrow from next door. 10 take 9 is 1, and 7 take 5 is 2. So 21 degrees is the missing angle here, and you can always just check that answer by doing 21, add 75, add 84, and check that it does add up to 180, and it does, so there we go. Angles on straight line add up to 180 is our reason. Question number 15. Write the following fractions in order of size, start with the smallest fraction. Now sometimes when they ask you to do this, they give you numbers here that can all very easily be multiplied up to make something like, I don't know, 24 or 40 or something like that. Here we can see that these numbers, to get them all in the same times table, it's going to be quite tricky, it's going to be quite a big number. So what I'm going to do here is actually change them all to decimals. And to do that, I'm just going to type them in my calculator. Now remember, you do have a fraction button on your calculator, but if you don't, you can just type 5 divided by 8, and that will give you 0.625 for that one. 2/3 is 0.666 recurring, so I'm just going to put a few, and then I'm going to put ... and then 4 divided by 9, or 4/9, is 0.444 recurring, and then 3/5, 3 divided by 5, is 0.6. We've now just got to decide which of those is the smallest. Now you might find it helpful, like I said on the other question, to write them on top of each other. 0.666, that one does carry on, 0.444, and 0.6, and you might find it helpful just to put some zeros there just to be able to compare them. Our smallest is going to be 0.4 recurring, so 4/9 is the smallest. The next smallest, you can see that they've got a 6 in this column. All of them have got a 6, so let's go over again. And in the next column we've got 2 or 6 or 0, so that's going to be the bottom one. 0.6, so 3/5 is the next smallest. And then out of these top two, I've got a 2 or I've got a 6, so 0.625, which is 5/8, that's the next smallest, and then 0.6 recurring, so 2/3 is the biggest, and that's those ones in order. Question number 17. 60 people are asked if they prefer to text or to email their friends, and we can see that they've popped 60 there, so we know that that's the total. 38 of the people are women, and the rest are men. So 38 are women, we can put that in that circle oval there, and the rest are men. So 60 take away 38 is 22. So there must be 22 men because we need these two ovals to add to make that total of 60. 15 of the men prefer to email. So of the men, 15 prefer to email, so we're going to put that there. And then it says 60% of the people prefer to text their friends. Okay, so we know that texting, these two need to be 60% of the total number of people, which is 60% of 60. Okay, so what can I fill out first? Well, I can fill out, if I know that 15 of the men prefer to email, I know that this one is going to be 7 because both of these add to make 22. So that's that. 60% of 60, so 60% of the total, we know that 10% would be 6 because to get 10% you divide by 10. And so 60% is 6 times bigger than that, so 36. So therefore I know that 36 people like to text. I've got 7 of them up here, and the rest of them would be women that prefer to text. 36 take away 7 is 29. And now those two ovals, this one and this one, add together to make 36, which is 60%. So that's that. Quite tricky, that. And then at the bottom, we've got email. Well, I know that these two ovals need to add to make 38, so I'm going to need another 9 more. to add together to make 38. And then again, we could just check our answer by doing 7 add 15 add 29 add 9, and that does add up to 60. So because these add up to 60, I'm fairly confident that we've done that correct. Okay, question number 19. Rachel, Samina and Tom share £600 between them. Rachel gets 2/5 of the £600. Now you do have a calculator for this, but I still think the easiest way when you're doing a fraction of a number is to divide by the bottom and then times by the top. So 600 divided by 5, and that's going to be 120, and then take that 120 and multiply it by the number on the top. So 120 times by 2 is 240. So Rachel gets £240. Let's pop that down here. Rachel, 240. Samina gets a quarter of the money that is left over, not a quarter of the money altogether, a quarter of the money that's left over. So we need to take Rachel's money off. 600, take away 240. Again, if there's more on the floor, we borrow from next door. So 10 take 4 is 6 and 5 take 2 is 3. So there's £360 left. Samina gets a quarter of that. What is a quarter of 360? Well, to do that, we're going to divide by 4. A quarter of a number, we divide by 4. 360 divided by 4 is 90. So Samina gets £90. And Tom gets the rest of the money. Okay, so we've got Rachel with 240, Samina with 90. 240 add 90 is 330. And if I do 600, take away 330, there's £270 left. So Tom is getting £270. Tom says, I would have got more money if we'd shared the £600 equally between us. Well, if they shared it equally between them, it would have been 600 divided by 3, which is £200. So if they'd shared it equally, he would have got 200, but in the way that they have done it, he's got 270. So I think Tom should just be quiet and take his share of the money. He was getting more beforehand. So Tom is incorrect. He gets more the original way. But if you say Tom is incorrect and you can see, the examiner can see 270 versus 200, that's going to be absolutely fine for 4 marks there. Great. Question number 21. Write down the inequality shown on this number line. So we've got our circle over the -1. So we can see that we need to use the letter X because that's labelling on the graph there. And X is all of the numbers that are bigger than -1. Like that. Now we need to decide, is it equal to or not? And that's decided by whether it's coloured in. So if that circle was coloured in, I'd be saying it's equal to. But because it's an open circle, we're just saying X is greater than -1. Part B, on the number line below, show the inequality. Y is bigger than or equal to -3. So we need a circle above -3. And less than 4. So I'm going to put a circle above 4. And I join those together. Where they're limited at each end, we don't use an arrow like we did here. We just use a circle at each of the places and then connect them with a line. And we are going to colour in this -3 one because we can see at this end it can actually equal that value. So if it's equal to, you can colour it in. So there we go, 2 marks for that one. Question number 23. Sam drives his car on a journey. Here is the travel graph for the first 15 minutes of his journey. The distance travelled in kilometres is up the side here, and the time is going across the bottom here. Work out Sam's speed in kilometres per hour for the first 15 minutes of a journey. Well, speed is distance divided by time. We know that from our formula triangle. Speed is distance divided by time. So in the first 15 minutes, that's the line that's drawn there, he travelled 20 kilometres. And we're going to divide that by the time, which is 15 minutes. Now, if you do 20 divided by 15, it's not going to get you your speed in kilometres per hour. It's going to get you your speed in kilometres per minute. So you can do it that way if you want. I personally would rather divide by a quarter because 15 minutes is a quarter of an hour. Okay, so 20 divided by a quarter is going to get you 80. So that makes sense. If you're going 20 kilometres in quarter of an hour, your speed is 80 kilometres per hour. So 20 divided by a quarter would do that. When we divide by a quarter, it's the same as timesing by 4. If you preferred to do 20 divided by 15, you would have got 4/3 as your answer in your calculator. And then you just need to take that and times it by 60 to get it in per hour. So that would also give an answer of 80, just a little bit longer. So if you can get it in hours, then it's just a little bit easier. You could divide by 0.25, or you could divide by a quarter. That would get you 80 straight away. At 10:15, Sam stops for 10 minutes and then drives for 20 minutes at a speed of 75 kilometers per hour. On the grid, complete the travel graph. Okay, so if he stops for 10 minutes, he's not going to be getting any further away. So I'm going to get my ruler here and I'm going to do 10 minutes going straight across. Now each box is 5 minutes on this graph. So for 10 minutes, I'm doing 2 squares like that. He's then driving for 20 minutes at a speed of 75 kilometers an hour. Now let's look back at this. If his speed is 75 kilometers an hour and the time is 20 minutes, which I'm going to say is 20 out of 60, or a third, because it's a third of an hour. I'm going to times those together to get the distance. That's going to help me. So 75 times by a third. That is going to be 25 kilometers that he's going to travel in that time, okay? So if you go 75 kilometers in a whole hour, in 20 minutes, you would only go a third as much, so 25. So you could just do 75 divided by 3. You could also do 75 times 20 minutes, but then that answer is going to be in minutes, so you're going to need to then divide it by 60. So 75 times by 20 is 1,500, and then if we divide that by 60, we also get 25. So 1,500 divided by 60 is 25. So it's absolutely fine to do it that way as well if you prefer, but 25 kilometers is the distance. So let's now go back to having my ruler, and it's going to take 20 minutes, so that's 4 squares, 5, 10, 15, 20, and I'm going to go 25 kilometers is the distance. He's already at 20, so we need to go up to 45 and over 4 squares. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going up 25, so that's going to go to there. We're going from 20 to 45. Yes, there we go. That's where it goes. Perfect. So that's the rest of your graph. Lovely. 5 marks for that one. Question number 25. Here is a right angled triangle. The shaded shape below is made from 2 of these triangles. Work out the perimeter. So the perimeter is a distance all the way around the outside. You need to do this, add this, add this, add this little bit, add this, and that's going to give you the perimeter, the distance around the outside of the shape. So hopefully you can see that we need to work out this side over here. And how can we work that out? We can use Pythagoras. So I'm going to do 8 squared, add 10 squared. I'm adding because I want the longest side, the hypotenuse. 8 squared is 64 and 10 squared is 100. 100 add 64 is 164. And then we just need to square root that answer to find the length of that side, and that is 12.8062 ... Okay, lovely. So I know that this side here is 12.8062. What about this bit here then? Well, I know that this, all of this side here, is that same number, 12.8062, and I know that this side here, because it's the base of that triangle, is 10, and therefore the difference here is 2.8062. If I take away 10 from 12.8062, I get 2.8062. So therefore, we've got those numbers to add up. To get the perimeter, it's going to be 8, add 10, add this, add this. And I'm not adding together anything on the inside because perimeter is only the distance around the outside. So 12.8062, add 2.8062, add 10, add 8, add 8. Now try not to round any of your answers until you get to the end. If you can, always do a good few decimal places. I get for that, so let's put 8, add 10, add 12.8062, ... add 2.8062, ... equals 41.6124, and that's to 3 significant figures. So there's your first significant figure, there's your second, and there's your third. Always check the next number. In this case, it's a 1, so it rounds down. So 41.6 is going to be my final answer for 4 marks there. Okay, question number 27. It's the last one on this foundation paper. So solve x squared minus 7x minus 18 equals 0. Now when we solve an equation, normally I get you guys to put a dotted line, and what we do to one side we do to the other. But because we've got the x squared and the x, we're going to have to do this one slightly differently. This is called a quadratic, and we're going to factorise it. Now to factorise it, that means put it into brackets. And because this is this type of quadratic, it's going to go into 2 brackets, okay? To do this, we need to find 2 numbers that add to make minus 7 and multiply to make minus 18. So the easiest way of doing that, I think, is to do an arrow off of that number that's on its own, the minus 18 here. Right, 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6. Those are your different options. Which of those, when we add or take away them, could make minus 7? It's going to be the 2 and the 9, because if I make it minus 9 and add 2, that would add together to make minus 7. So watch what happens when you expand this out. X times x is x squared. X times 2 is 2x. Minus 9 times x is minus 9x. And minus 9 times 2 is minus 18. And that equals 0. And then these two would make minus 7. So that gets us what we've got there. So that's why it works. Adding to make that the number in front of the x, and multiplying to make the constant term. Now, we are saying I want this bracket times this bracket to equal 0. So that means that either this bracket needs to equal 0 or this bracket needs to equal 0. What value of x would make this bracket equal 0? We'd have to make x 9, so that when we took away 9, we'd get that whole bracket being 0. So x equals 9 is your first answer. And for the second bracket, what value of x there would make that bracket equal 0? X would need to equal minus 2. So those are your 2 solutions for 3 marks there. Hopefully that made some sense, but that's very much grade 5, so quite tricky for the end of the paper there. Hopefully that made sense. Let me know in the comments if you've got any questions, and I will see you guys next week for week 22.